Hello, everybody. Welcome to this week's episode of Beware the Board, a horror podcast where we watch a randomly selected horror movie every single week. I'm Bob.
I'm Ben.
That was so funny.
I don't know what was funny about that, but okay.
I'm leaving that in.
Okay.
If you may have noticed, there was a short pause. Ben was enamored by whatever the hell my dog was doing.
Piper was glaring at me.
Okay. I was just curious because, I said it and I went, is he going to say his name? I was like, do I have to introduce Ben this time?
I wasn't really paying attention.
I realized.
I don't know what tipped you off.
And that's why I started laughing, because you just looked at me so scared and said, I'm Ben. Okay. Holy shit.
What's up?
Oh, nothing.
All right.
Normal stuff. I don't know. I don't have anything crazy. You have anything cool you want to talk about?
I mean, I think you'll find this cool.
Okay.
So I'll mention it. So on the 26th.
It's in my notes. You can talk about this, though. You can have it.
The Mummy is showing in theaters.
Yep. I wrote this down because I thought it was so cool.
Good month, guys, right? You can go see Shrek 2 and then The Mummy in theaters.
That's awesome. I forgot about the Shrek 2 thing until just now. Yeah, no, that is cool. And I think it's like nationwide. So a bunch of theaters are showing it.
I mean, yeah, it's for what, the
25th anniversary.
Which, oh my God, I feel so old.
We're talking about The Mummy 1999, by the way.
Yeah.
Not The Mummy from 1932.
No, I feel so old, though.
You're not that old yet.
I'm nearly as old as that movie.
Approaching, but
Yeah.
not there. Well, that was my first piece of news, so that's been covered. And that's really exciting, because, I think I'll probably try and go see it if I can.
Oh,
Because
same.
I never saw it in theaters when it first released, but I've seen it since then, and I really like that movie. Okay. This one, I wrote this down because it's funny, but that is the only reason. I don't actually, I have interest in this. Did we talk about Critters last week?
I believe so.
This is why I thought this was funny. So there's a new film from the Brussels International Fantastic Film Festival.
Oh my God, that's a mouthful.
Also, the the acronym is BIF with 3 Fs, which I think is hilarious.
Like from Back to the Future?
Yeah, well, there's 2 Fs in BIF, I think. This is 3 Fs, so it's different. Okay, a film from that film festival received
From
a
Biff?
trailer from BIF. Has received a trailer. The movie is called Monster on a Plane. It is essentially the idea of what if a small critters-like monster escaped onto an aircraft.
So a gremlin on a plane.
Basically, yes.
Okay.
Looks really funny. Looks really cool. I didn't watch the trailer, but the art is also really cool. And also, the Brussels International Fantastic Film Festival, I think
Call it Biff.
The BIF gave it like a 4.5 out of 5 stars.
Oh, that's not that bad.
So it's a pretty solid movie, and I think it's a European film, which is why the Brussels International Fantastic Film Fest rated it. So if you're interested in a European horror movie and that seems like a cool premise, check it out. There's a trailer. I don't know if it's streaming anywhere yet, but it looks cool. I also really like the way the creature looks, because it looks like a critter and a gremlin got mashed together, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I'm looking at it right now.
Yeah.
It looks more critter-esque than
It looks more critter,
gremlin-esque.
but it's not exactly critter.
I mean,
It's slightly different.
It's slightly enough where they're not going to get sued for copyright infringement.
Yeah.
But even then, I'm kind of looking at it and I'm like, that might be debatable.
Sure. Okay. This next one's long-winded because there was a lot to talk about on this one, but also it's very cool. So there's a new film from Radio Silence that has gotten a trailer. The film, I don't know if you've heard of this one because I've been seeing a lot of articles about it and stuff. It's called Abigail. It's rated R for strong bloody violence and gore throughout, pervasive language, and brief drug use. I just fucked that all up.
Well, that's not new.
It's not. The film follows a group of kidnappers as they kidnap a 12-year-old ballerina and hold her hostage for $50 million in ransom. Turns out, she's not a normal 12-year-old, and things get bloody.
Well, see, I think their first mistake is $50 million.
That's so much money.
Yeah, you got to set your sights more reasonable.
No, so the whole thing is like her family's like super rich.
Still.
I mean,
They can make more.
okay. Okay, maybe. All right. It is to be directed by Matt Bedellini-Olpin and Tyler Gillette. They previously directed Ready or Not and Scream 6. It's being written by Stephen Shields, who previously wrote for Hole in the Ground and Zombie Bashers, as well as Guy Busick, the guy who wrote for the Scream franchise and Ready or Not. I mention those people because those are some pretty famous horror films, or pretty popular at least.
Yeah.
Considering Scream and Ready or Not, which I've heard of, and I've heard Ready or Not is pretty good.
I mean, personally, I like Ready or Not more than Scream 6.
That's fair.
But that's just me.
So yeah, I've been seeing the trailers on this one, and it just looks really cool. Because, like, the whole killer kid thing is, like, there are some films out there, like, Orphan, stuff like that. But I've never seen someone take it to, like, this level, because this movie looks fucking crazy.
See, the thing with Killer Kids, right, is it's a gimmick. Totally, right?
I didn't want to spoil it, but she's more than a killer kid.
Oh, I know. I had looked at pictures.
Yeah.
But at its heart, that's what it's supposed to be. I mean, there's always a gimmick to a Killer Kid movie most of the times. But, it's a gimmick, and it either works or succeeds on the power of your child actor.
Mm-hmm.
And that is a hard thing to leverage a film on.
Sure.
So there's like a small, and I do mean small, handful of films with like a killer kid that work really, really, really well, but then a lot that don't.
Mm-hmm.
And so I'm always skeptical when
Well,
I
if
see
it
something like that.
Helps. I did not write down her name. The person who plays Abigail is actually fairly famous and is in some pretty good films.
Yeah, I mean, if she's a good actor, that gives the whole thing credit. But then it comes down to, okay, is this a good movie?
True. You're right. I mean,
Because, you still have to be like, you could get the best kid actor ever for that role, but it could still just be a bad movie.
yeah, she was in Matilda the Musical, the new one from 2022.
I didn't see that.
I haven't either. And then another film called The Wicked Little Letters. But I've heard the Matilda the Musical from 2022 is good. I've heard it's good.
Yeah. So, I mean, hopefully she's
So.
able to carry her weight well. And then, like, all it has to be is well-written and stuff, so
Mm-hmm.
we'll see.
I'm excited about it. I think it looks cool. I just think the premise of a bunch of kidnappers being locked in a creepy place with a murderous 12-year-old is kind of awesome.
Oh, no, that's very funny.
Very good premise.
Maybe they should have set their sights a little lower than $50 million. That's just, like, a lot, man.
It is a lot. But like I said, like her family in the film is like filthy rich.
No, but, like, even if you expect to get $50 million from that family, $50 million is so much for, like, ransom
Yeah.
that there's going to be a lot more hoops going on.
True.
Than if you asked for, like, $1 million.
$50.
$50.
You can have this 12-year-old back. She killed all my friends.
We're actually going to give her back no matter what, but for $50, you'll get her back, like,
Sooner. It's
sooner.
expedited shipping. Okay. That's all I got today for news. So I have a separate question to pose, Benjamin. Have you come up with a season title yet? You got anything in your noggin?
No.
No?
No.
I don't either. I just was wondering if you were holding anything out on me like you did every other season of this show. Normally you come swinging in by the middle of the season with something really good.
Bam. Bam. Except last season. Expired Monster Slurpee.
Yeah, but that one was hard because we were really all over the place. Okay?
I think this one's also hard.
This one isn't as hard, I don't think. I don't know, maybe. Maybe it is. I don't know. Anyway, I don't know what to pick. We had this discussion before the podcast because Ben loves to come into my house and go, "What are you picking?" And I'll go, usually I'll tell him, and today I said I don't know because we're at a weird impasse. I want to space the cannibal movies out because the first one was a horrific experience, but a good movie. The second one was just a good movie. So the third one might be awful, and I'm very scared of it. And I don't really want to pick it right now. So I'm going to save that. But then I was like, I'm doing the thing I did at the beginning of the show where I was going 1, 2, 3 and just picking the categories in order. And that's kind of boring. So I don't really want to pick Romero films. But then we're double dipping into found footage, which I told Ben was scary because that last film scared the shit out of me.
I'm still, like, shocked by how much you were scared of that. I listened to last week's episode yesterday. No, the day before yesterday. And I heard my reaction where I was like, wait, you were actually scared. And I was like, yeah, I'm still shocked by that.
Yeah, I've been telling Ben I've been having trouble just existing in my house since that episode.
He's afraid of his bathroom and
I'm afraid of a lot
the
of things
basement.
now. I'm just scared. And I don't really know how to quantify that.
Well, it's a good thing you don't have a glory hole in your house.
True. No, my house is glory holeless.
I hope that made sense for some of you.
Look, if you listened to the whole episode, that made sense. If you didn't, sorry.
There's a small British boy living under my stairs.
I don't have. Well, actually, I do have stairs in my basement. Anyway, I'm just in a weird spot, okay? Because We could watch a Romero film, and I'm excited about the Romero films. It's my own category, but they're long.
I know. It's been the worst part.
That is like, I don't mind a long film.
But when you know going in, they're going to be like 2 hours.
2 hours plus, brother. Like, come on. So you know what, Ben? I'll give you your wish. We'll finish your category of early found footage films with whatever the last spot is, because I don't remember what I picked the first 2 times.
Yippee. Sorry, I had to channel a small German boy for a second. You know, I have my cola.
What are you talking about?
I've shown you that meme. It's the little kid. He's really excited about his cola and Fortnite.
Oh, I know what you're talking about now. I was like, what has Ben talking about?
If you don't know, and this is me going from information Bob's told me, apparently yippee is a common German expression for excitement.
Yeah, they do say yippee a lot.
Which is super weird because no one says that anymore.
No,
in the
they
States. Don't. But it's funny. Anyways, last spot in found footage or early found footage.
Yeah, we got to keep saying that or else it's going to get out of hand. Because eventually we're going to do just found footage. And would you be like, didn't you do that category fucking 10 seasons ago?
I don't think anyone pays enough attention to that to know.
Someone does.
Someone does.
Someone's me, okay?
Oh, I was going to say that someone ain't me. But today we are watching The Last Broadcast from 1998. Which, fun fact, I think we've gone in chronological order for these.
Did we really?
Yeah.
Oh, that's cool.
McPherson Tapes was 89, Ghostwatch was 92, and this one's 98.
Oh, what a good little journey down
memory lane.
Yeah.
All right. Description. What really happened during the last broadcast?
Ben, I don't know.
Oh, that's what we're about to find out. It's an hour and 26 minutes long.
Okay.
For ratings, I was a little bit all over the place.
Nice.
I couldn't find anything like the same.
Okay.
Like I kept checking places and it kept giving me different answers.
Weird.
IMDb said it was TV-14.
Isn't that like basically PG-13?
Which should be PG-13. And I was like, well, I know this is on Shudder still.
Mm-hmm.
And I checked on there and it was TVMA.
Okay, so it's
R.
R, yeah.
So I'm not sure if it's PG-13 or R.
Somewhere in that ballpark.
But it's somewhere in that ballpark. I know that's a pretty large ballpark.
Sure.
But it's definitely not PG.
The scariest thing possible.
Now that'd be G.
That's true. Have we done G?
No.
Okay. I didn't know if we had. I didn't know if we had hit any G films.
I don't know if a horror movie could beat G.
That we could find something. You could find something.
No, because it could be PG, parental guidance, but
Yeah.
general audience, I don't like anything with suspense. I don't know if it could go into the G category.
Well, wasn't Gremlins G when it came out? Then they had to
PG.
create PG.
No, it was PG. They had to make PG-13.
Okay, that's what I thought.
Review scores. IMDb gave it a 5.2 out of 10.
It's not bad.
Tomato meter gave it a 50%.
Okay.
An audience score of 39%.
Ugh.
Pretty mid.
Pretty mid in ratings, but we all know that means nothing.
Yeah. Awards, 0 wins, 0 nominations. Notable actors. I say notable actors. None of these guys
Are notable now.
are really famous.
Okay.
And remember, if I don't mention a film they're in, they weren't in any other acting roles.
Sweet.
David Beard as David Lay, the filmmaker. He played the judge in Strange Brew. Jim Seward as James Jim L. Seward. The accused, he played Barry Humes in Siege of Evil. Stefan Avalos as Stephen Johnny Avcast, the Factor Fiction host. He was a disciple in the God Complex. Lance Wheeler as Locust Wheeler, a Factor Fiction host. Rain Clabbers as Rain Clacken. He was a paranormal sound man. Michelle Pulaski as Michelle Shelley Monarch. She was a data retrieval expert. Tom Brunt as Thomas Tom Bransky, the Factor Fiction video engineer. Mark Robley as Claire DeForest. They were a video editor for the prosecution. A.D. Rosso as Detective Anthony Rossi, lead investigator. Dale Worstall as Dr. Dale Worstall. Van K. Weller as Van K. Waller, the forensic pathologist. Sam Wells as Sam Woods, the film and television director. Jay McDonald as Jay McDowell, the web designer. Faith Whaler as Joyce Dreyer. Jim Slanlady, and then Mary Ann Connor as Mary Brenner, the TV reporter.
Okay, am I losing my mind? Or are a lot of those people's names just the exact same but slightly different?
You're not losing your mind.
Okay.
They are
You said that a couple times, and I went, okay, maybe I'm just picking up on
exact
something.
same first name most of the time, and then the last names are usually like
A couple letters off.
a couple letters off, or very specifically, you're just kind of changing some of the vowel sounds.
Weird. Okay.
Like there was Wheeler. Well, it's Weiler
Mm-hmm.
to Wheeler.
Oh.
Like Whaler to Wheeler kind of stuff. Lots of that. But that's
Okay.
that's what happens when you have, especially small films, where you're like, what should we name all these characters? And we're like, oh, we'll just name them after the actor.
Mm-hmm.
Because, like, you're kind of creating the roles for the actors as you get them. Like, you might have the script and stuff already, but... And this is a very small film. We'll get into that. Writer and director, Stefan Avalos. He also directed Strad Style, and Lance Whaler. He directed Head Trauma.
I feel like I've heard of Head Trauma, but I've never heard of the other one.
I don't think you have.
I don't know.
But they're both in this film,
Oh.
if you couldn't tell. They are very specifically... Stefan is Stephen Avcast, and then Weller is Locust Wheeler. So they're both the Fact or Fiction hosts. And you'll know what that is once we watch the movie. But budget.
Oh, God. Please be, like, dirt cheap. This is going to be awesome.
Oh, Bob, it's dirt cheap. You want to take a guess?
Well, they made the McPherson tapes for $6,500.
Yes.
This feels like it probably has more budget than that, but I could be wrong. Let's say dirt cheap. It's 1998.
Yeah.
$200,000.
Wow. That was way overshooting it.
Wow.
This is our lowest budget
No way.
by far.
This has so many more people in it. It feels so much more complicated.
It even beats out Thanksgiving's $3,500. We
No
are
way.
at $900 estimated budget.
Okay. No, there's no way. No way.
Nine-
No way.
$100
I don't believe it.
estimated budget.
Where did you find this information?
I double checked a couple places. I even have the breakdown of where their money went.
Whoa.
And I want to stress this right now. I want you and anyone who goes to watch this film, remember that fact when you watch this movie. It is exceedingly impressive for the budget they had.
Okay.
Exceedingly impressive for $900.
God damn.
But if you're wondering, the film was edited on a desktop computer using Adobe Premiere. I think it's 4.2. So editing essentially was free. $600 was allocated to production, and $240 were utilized for digital video stock, so like stock footage and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
The rest of the money went to 20 hours of tape for $12 each.
Jesus Christ.
So this is really cheap.
Holy shit. Okay. I assume there's no box office.
Well,
Okay.
so the release in this film was a little bit confusing, but from what I can tell, it first premiered regionally at the County Theater in Doylestown, Pennsylvania on March 9th, 1998. And then Avalos and Whaler had their own independent distribution company, which they distributed the film through. Very, very tiny distribution company.
Mm-hmm.
That was called Wavelength Releasing. And they were able to release it in 7 U.S. cities starting on October 23rd, 1998, including Providence, Rhode Island, Orlando, Florida, Minneapolis, Minnesota, and Portland, Oregon, which is kind of cool.
No, that is
they were
cool.
able to spread it out. Although, notably, the film was not shot on film stock because this wasn't a professional feature. It was shot with, like, home video camera tape. So the screenings had to be arranged to select theaters via satellite streaming.
Oh. Huh.
Because this is really the early days of film production.
Mm-hmm.
With that being said, the film managed to make $12,097.
They made some pretty okay money considering they made this film for nothing, basically.
Yeah, and that's for the U.S. and Canada box office. So, I mean, I think that's fairly impressive.
Mhm.
That is essentially 12 times their budget.
Yeah.
For something that they produced themselves and also released themselves
Mm-hmm.
with kind of no standard distribution. So that is really good.
No, that's pretty fucking cool.
I think it's not a lot of films you see that get up to 12 times your budget, especially when 2 or 3 times
Yeah.
is considered
Normally is like I'd say
fairly
2.
successful. With that being said, I found a couple things that mentioned a much larger worldwide profit of $4 million.
Holy shit.
But assumedly that's from like
Overtime stuff.
overtime, but specifically like probably DVD and VHS sales.
Or like streaming stuff. Because I'm sure they got paid some money if this is on like Shudder and like other stuff like that.
Yeah. But I don't know what the time frame for that is, and I couldn't find too much about the specifics for that price. But I did see the $12,000 repeated in multiple places. So I'm pretty confident about that.
Yeah, I'm curious how much like actual international release this film got in terms of people buying DVDs and whatnot.
Honestly, from what I could find, just like the McPherson tapes, and even Ghostwatch, it was hard to get a hold of for a while. Like, I know they had their own website and they sold it there, but I think a lot of streaming places didn't have it. It actually went up on Shudder around the same time that the McPherson tapes did. I think in the same month they went up both at the same time, and that made them fairly easily accessible, because I think before then they were both just weren't. So that's kind of cool nowadays.
No, that is
cool.
cool.
They're getting more attention than they did. It is really interesting to think, though, that like how well this film could have done if it managed to get a wider release. Because this is 1998.
Yeah.
It came out before
Blair Witch?
Blair Witch.
Because that's 99, right?
Yeah, I believe so. So, it is an interesting thought experiment of, you'll see the film, and I'm not necessarily sure if it's as good as Blair Witch.
Sure.
Comparing films like that is, I think, very subjective. But I do think it's a decent film, and it is really interesting to think of, like, if they had gotten picked up in the same way. Because Blair Witch essentially got picked up because of viral marketing.
Yeah.
With that being said, last couple things: country of origin, United States. Tagline. I actually got the tagline. It's like one of the last things I did, and I had already made the description before this, but it's very similar, just on accident, which I think is very funny.
Nice.
What actually happened that night in the woods?
Well, no, Ben. The woods.
What's wrong?
You didn't mention that.
What's wrong?
Oh, God. Man, you said this one wasn't going to be bad. You were like, oh, we should watch it. It'll be a good movie. I'm scared. I don't know. I'm nervous, Ben.
It couldn't be that bad, Bob. It's not like there are scary woods. It's not like it's set...
Didn't I pitch that already?
It's not like it's set in the New Jersey Pine Barrens or anything.
The scariest woods imaginable?
Yes.
Oh, is this a Jersey Devil film? That'd be fun.
Maybe.
Oh, shit! Oh! The Jersey Devil is so cool.
Also, Pine Barrens are also where Blair Witch is set.
Yeah, I knew that.
Although I think those were what? That one's Maryland, right? Instead of New Jersey.
I don't know. We haven't seen that film on the podcast, so I haven't watched it. Are you Googling now?
I'm looking up Burkittsville, Maryland. Yeah. Anyways, the only other things that you really need to note about this film is 2 things. First of all, this film is sometimes wrongly cited as an influence on the Blair Witch Project.
Oh.
Because it came out earlier. That is not the case. The concept for the Blair Witch was developed in 1993, and
holy shit,
production began in October 1997, which is 5 months before the premiere of the last broadcast.
Okay.
So they were kind of being produced at around the same time.
Yeah.
Although the inklings of Blair Witch are
far further back.
Far earlier, yeah. So I do think that is important to note, because they are so close, and I think there is that misconception to be like, which one's the original?
Well, when you have 2 films set in the same location with like probably a similar concept, like
vaguely, yeah.
Yeah.
But what I will mention that's really cool about this film, and it kind of harkens back to that whole super cheap $900 budget, is that this film is generally credited as the first feature-length film to be shot and edited entirely on consumer-level digital equipment.
Oh, wow.
Yep.
That's actually really sick.
Which is really cool.
Because that's kind of what we're doing.
That's why it's so cheap.
It's audio only. No
video.
Because
literally a couple guys were like, we're going to get some cameras, and we're going to pull up Adobe on my fancy new computer.
that sounds like it's exploding when it connects to the internet.
Not exploding, but like it kind of sounds like you're hacking the government to
Yeah.
launch nuclear weapons.
Mm-hmm.
That was a movie reference.
Okay. Well, but you're looking at me like I was supposed to know what movie that was.
I know you weren't. It's War Games.
Literally, what are you talking about?
Well, I know you haven't seen War Games. It's got oh my god, what's his name? Ferris Bueller in it.
Who?
Matthew Broderick.
Oh, I know who Ferris Bueller is. I didn't know who his actor was. I've also never seen that movie.
I know you haven't. If it's a movie, I just assume you haven't seen it.
But sometimes
I'm right.
I hit you with a surprise, and you go
95% of the time.
That's a good.
Unless
a good
it's
percentage.
Transformers.
I haven't seen all those yet.
It's just the latest one. No, the whole premise is this kid is like, oh god, it's been a while since I've seen it. I think he's like a hacker.
Okay.
But like early internet, like dial-up internet,
Mm-hmm.
and he accidentally breaks into like the computer that handles like all the nuclear launch codes for the U.S.
Okay, well that's ridiculous. How could a child accidentally access that?
Cybersecurity was not great in the 80s. But he starts playing what he thinks is, I think, a war game with it.
Oh no! Holy shit!
And like the whole movie is like him being like, oh no.
I blew up a
He
city!
didn't blow anything up, but it's kind of like the government's coming after him, and he's like, I gotta stop this thing from like starting the Cold War into a hot war.
That's awesome. No, that's a cool movie premise.
All right, well, you ready to watch this movie?
Fuck. Yeah, I'm scared, Ben. God damn it. I shouldn't have picked this category. I should have gone with my gut and done Romero.
That'll
Fuck
be great.
you. Hi, everybody. Welcome back. We just finished watching the last broadcast. I had to remember the
that
name of
is
the
the
movie.
correct name. Yes.
I'm very bad about remembering the name of the films that we watch, even though I just watched the whole thing.
Yeah, and they showed the name at the end of the movie.
True, they did.
What you think?
I'm mad about it.
Oh, okay,
I like this movie, kinda,
okay.
and that's where I'll leave it. We'll talk
Oh,
about
you're
it.
just gonna leave it there?
Yeah, because like I don't want to start going on a rant with no context for the audience.
It wouldn't be the first time.
It wouldn't be the first time, but I'm trying to contain myself.
Okay, fair enough. Well, for anyone who's curious, I'm going to do a brief rundown, and then we'll actually talk about the film. So, last chance to watch it, kind of unspoiled. But the rough rundown for what this film is it's essentially a horror, like, mockumentary. Kind of like we did back in, what, Season 2?
Season 2. And also last episode.
And also last episode.
With a ghost watch.
But this one is very reminiscent of, I'd say, the Poughkeepsie tapes,
Yeah.
where the whole film is framed like it is an actual documentary.
Or maybe Lake Mungo. I would say Lake Mungo is probably closer.
Or like Mungo. That's also probably a good example. But yeah, the whole thing is framed like an actual documentary, down to the simple fact that it even has like produced by and then the fake name of like
he's a presenter,
the fake host. So, you know, it's really holding true to that like mockumentary format. But yeah, it's all about very specifically the murder of these two men, Locus and Steven, who ran this like public access.
The murder of.
I'll get to it, but the public access, so fact or fiction. So they were hosting this like live event where they were broadcasting like them going out into the Pine Barrens to investigate the Jersey Devil.
Yeah.
And they were broadcasting it both to, assumedly, the news station, but also on the internet.
Mm-hmm.
But during this whole trip, 4 of them went into the woods. So it's the 2 hosts, their audio guy.
His name's
Ryan. And then the psychic they hired.
Jim.
But, you know, the 2 hosts got murdered. Ryan got murdered. And Jim was the only survivor. And kind of the whole documentary is on the case because it was kind of sensationalized in the news because it seemed pretty open and shut that, you know,
Jim did it.
And so it's kind of looking into the facts around that. So that sounds interesting. Go watch it before we spoil more. I will say it is set up like an actual documentary. So don't expect it to be like a traditional horror movie.
Yeah.
Or even a traditional found footage film. There is found footage incorporated into this because, like I said, this whole premise is about these public access guys.
Mm-hmm.
So they were recording all that they were doing, and they're tapes are kind of mixed in throughout the documentary.
Yeah.
So it still conforms with that style, but it is a little bit odd even for that. That being said, though, Bob, now that I've given a brief rundown, can I release the floodgates and you can go on your rant?
I don't really have that much to say. I mean, I do, but I don't at the same time. Look, I like the first hour and 10 minutes of this film a lot. I think it's really cool. In fact, I think it's phenomenal. I'm such a fan of the documentary, pseudo-documentary style approach that this film takes. Like, I feel like it's done in such a cool way with tons of interviews with people, and it gives a slow reveal of information that is rewarding if you're paying attention to different stuff, because, like, they'll replay clips and give you more, like, with more context later.
I mean, it honestly feels like they're walking you through the case, like, chronologically.
Yeah.
For how, like, the investigation looked at it and kind of the framing events, stuff like that.
Yeah, and a lot of the footage that you get from the Fact or Fiction crew is just crusty and bad enough to feel real. Like, it all feels like... That's my big takeaway, is this feels like a real case. Like, it feels 100% real, because all of the stuff they're doing is very 1998. So it feels like someone made this. Like, you would see this on TV in the 90s on, like...
a cheap new, like, channel.
Yeah, a cheap news channel. Like, it is so interesting and cool to see something like this. And that's helped by the fact that the footage from the Fact or Fiction crew is crusty and messed up, and it looks like shit.
Probably because it was in the woods, but also shot by the Fact or Fiction crew.
Exactly. Like, it feels very, very real. And all of the fact that all of the stuff that the actual documentary maker got, what is his name?
Dave something.
Is it David?
I think it's David.
All the stuff that he's shooting is shot on a different kind of camera that is nicer.
I think he has a digital camera instead of, like, a film
of a film camera. But like that small style switch from those two things.
David Lay, that's the guy's name.
Is so cool. And it adds, like, reality to it, I guess, and makes it feel more grounded. Also, David Lay's voice, he is a very good, like, presenter narrator.
It's very monotone.
But it's very, like, it feels good. It feels natural, you know what I mean? Like, I feel like this guy actually does this for a living. So that's really nice. But also, like, the inclusion of, like, it's not even just the way things are put together, but, like, the actual editing with sort of the transition stuff also feels very, like, documentary. Like, they'll pull news clippings, they'll pull, like, weird
fades
and stuff, and they'll be like, it'll just go black and white, text will appear with, like, dates and stuff. It's just so stylized and formatted like a real documentary that it's so cool. Like, it's just such a nice style thing, and I really, really like it.
Honestly, I think if you cut off some of the extraneous bits that are, like, breaking with the documentary format, most notably, obviously, like, the intro title sequences and the credits, you could convincingly, I think, play this on the news or something and be like, this is real, and probably convince some people.
Absolutely.
Especially back in, 1998, when you couldn't just, like, Google all this stuff.
That's, like, my biggest takeaway about this film, is that, like, it feels very real and grounded with all of the documentary stuff. Like, I love it so much, because I love documentaries, first of all. Like, specifically, like, spooky documentaries. That's why I listen to, like, scary podcasts, you know? People that, like, talk about this kind of stuff. It feels very in that vein, except...
So, like, true crime?
True crime stuff, yeah.
That's what it feels like.
That's exactly what it feels like. And I'm such a huge fan. And to watch a horror movie that does it so well, made in the 90s, is so cool. Because it also, like, it feels cheap in a good way.
Yeah, I mean, you can really tell that really low budget. Although I mentioned this earlier, it looks impressive for $900.
Oh, it's
right?
crazy for $900. I can't believe they made this.
Like, you can tell how they stretched it. Most of the film is just talking headshots. And if you look really closely, a lot of those people are in, like, either cheap suits or, like, clothes they already owned that were, like, nicer.
But that adds reality to, like...
It just looks like a small podunk town kind of stuff.
Yeah, and it makes sense. Like, the psychologist that they interview is wearing a fucking Hawaiian shirt, but if they just showed up and to interview the guy, he probably would just be wearing that.
Yeah, he looks like he's in his, like, home office.
Yeah, like, I just enjoy the vibe. For real. You got anything you want to talk about?
Yeah. If we're talking, like, kind of positive points of this film, for me, you know, outside the fact that this is hyper low budget, and they made something I think is fairly impressive. What I think is so interesting about this film is how it incorporates technology
Yeah, that is true.
into the plot. Because this is from 1998. The internet's brand spanking new. We're not even on internet, 2.0 at this point?
Yeah,
Because that's Facebook, right?
I think so.
Like, this is back when the internet is just like message boards and basically nothing else. And this movie makes a specific point of interweaving the budding internet into the very fabric of the movie, into the very fabric of this murder case. Obviously, there's the general aspect of like, oh, this is a documentary made basically by one person with like a home video camera. But more importantly, it's investigating these public access guys. And the whole premise behind why they get murdered is they're doing this live broadcast thing. And Bob made the point of, this is 1998. The idea that they're live broadcasting on the internet,
In the woods?
or just in general, like from this little setup they have, is absolutely crazy. They had to have like a satellite uplink.
Mm-hmm.
But they also do some other really interesting stuff. Like they'll have IRC going throughout the movie. Not throughout the movie, but the Fact or Fiction crew has IRC stuff going during their shows, which, if you don't know that's internet real-time chat, I think, something like that.
Something.
But Bob saw it, he's like, what, they doing Twitch chat?
Yeah, they're literally getting live questions from their audience.
Yeah, and it like reads out the prompts in a really creepy robot voice.
Yeah. It's super cool.
And like all of this stuff is used throughout, because I mean, obviously, they're broadcasting all this footage in the woods when they got murdered, so the actual murder investigation has access to like a lot of footage, and that's what we're seeing throughout. But the IRC stuff kind of comes into play too.
Mm-hmm.
We learn that like it was a viewer that suggested that they go into the Pine Barrens.
Yeah.
That is linked back to Jim, kind of the main suspect, because they were like, oh, Jim was really into the budding internet.
Mm-hmm.
But then they also, come back to it where it's like, we know during the time of the murders, Jim was on IRC the whole time, except for like this 45-minute block where he could have like committed the murders. And I don't know, it's really basic, like internet stuff, but
it's super cool.
It's cool, but also bizarre to see
in
a film coming out in 1998 that isn't about that explicitly.
Mm-hmm. No, they also do some cool stuff where they interview the dude that helps them set up everything, like the web designer guy, and he does a very good job of like explaining how everything works and making it feel less complicated than it needs to be.
I want to say though, he looks like he deals with computers in 1998. He has like the whole punk kind of aesthetic going on. Like, I don't know if you saw the nose ring and everything.
Did you see his earrings?
Oh yeah, like
the leather jacket.
They chose the guy who might have actually just been into the internet.
Yeah.
In 1998. Aside from that, all that internet stuff, they also do a really good job of exploring like kind of the production aspects.
Mm-hmm.
The whole Fact or Fiction case. They have a couple interviews with, I think he's their like main technician guy.
Yeah, he is.
That are really interesting because he gives like, from his perspective, kind of how the show worked.
Mm-hmm.
He's like, oh yeah, it was real shitty. Like when these guys went missing, like for the first day, everyone was like, when are they just going to show up and go, surprise?
Yeah.
Because like pulling a missing person stunt is exactly what they would do. So, stuff like that was cool. But I thought the really interesting one, and I think it was a cool point that the documentary makes, is they interview this guy, and I think I forget his actual name, but I think they nicknamed him like the Killer Cut.
Oh, yeah.
Editor. But basically, they had all this footage of these people. They didn't have the footage of like the actual murders, but they had everything like kind of leading up to it. And for the prosecution to kind of like seal their case, they had this guy put together all the footage that he could, specifically to make the defendant, Jim, look guilty.
Yeah.
And I thought that was such a little interesting thing to put in the movie, not only because it kind of shows like what we're watching as the audience. If you note like the very early takes of the film that are showing kind of like these excerpts really do paint Jim as being guilty are from specifically the Killer Cut stuff.
Mm-hmm.
But I think that the really cool thing that documentary points out is that there's some moral quandary there.
Yeah.
because, this guy was hired specifically to make Jim look guilty by picking and choosing cuts. I think, obviously, the most replayed one is there's a scene where Jim pushes Ryan, and it's cut just to show Jim pushing Ryan for no reason.
And not what he says beforehand.
Which is calling
to prompt him.
Jim a psycho.
Yeah.
Yeah. But, I thought that was also a nice inclusion because it shows that, it's a part of this whole narrative with the whole documentary that, the police department was just kind of looking for the easy win on the case.
Yeah, there's a whole, I don't want to say side plot, but sub point of the person trying to get elected was tough on crime. So, and the police department wanted to help him out. So they were trying to get a open and shut case that they could get see, we're putting down crime. Vote for this guy.
Yeah, and I think that's a nice lead into, I think what is the most interesting part about this whole documentary format is it's, an investigative documentary. And what the documentary kind of realizes throughout the movie is that what looks like Jim is really, really guilty at first. When you look into more and more of the evidence, it becomes a little bit more muddled. A lot of the evidence is very circumstantial.
Yeah.
We mentioned the RC stuff. There's 45 minutes that he could have, committed the murders. But it's also he would have to run around the woods for 45 minutes.
Yeah, based on where they found the bodies and stuff and everything.
Their main evidence, I think, for linking him to the crime, besides the fact that he was the only other person there in the woods, is the fact that he had blood on his shirt.
Yeah.
That they found just strewn in his room. But at the same time, it was dots of blood and not...
I think they said it was 17 droplets of blood.
Yeah, and not the giant slashes you'd expect because, we don't get a lot of, decent looks at the bodies. I think we're told they were chopped up into 47
different
pieces.
And if you were to do that to someone, you would definitely get more blood on you than 17 droplets.
What else is kind of makes it suspect? Oh, Steve, one of the hosts, there's just no body.
Yep, they don't have his body. They have his hat.
They just assume he's dead.
Yep.
And not, potentially a suspect. So, it's just kind of this cool reveal as the documentary goes. Well, it's probably Jim. But then maybe it's not.
Yeah, and I think that comes into the whole perspective of David, the presenter that is making the documentary we're watching, brings up very far and later, sorry, I had a stroke. He brings up very late into the film the fact that any media that you're viewing is forced through the lens of the person creating it. And you're seeing what they want you to see. And that's kind of the whole point of the entire thing is if you watch it from the perspective of the police, Jim is definitely guilty, 100%. No way it could be anyone else. If you look at the evidence from the perspective of what he's presenting, there is someone else and we don't know who it is. So it's super duper cool. It's a very, very good movie about perspective.
Yeah. Also David makes the simple fact that no matter what, this has all been overhyped and we're not going to know the answer now because as we learn, I think really early on in the film, Jim dies in prison.
Jim is dead, and so there's no one that can answer any more questions.
Yep.
Every piece of evidence that is available has been seen.
Except...
I didn't know if you want to talk about this or not.
Well, I'll mention it here because I think it's a very interesting thread.
Oh, it's so cool.
Is about, 40 minutes into the documentary.
Yeah.
David ends up being sent a box of just film.
Yeah.
So it's basically someone took a tape and then pulled
ripped
all
the film out,
the film out of it, and then threw it in a box with packing peanuts. But they sent him the stuff on the day that Jim died. So assumedly, whoever had this footage heard he was doing a documentary and sent it to him after the person convicted died.
Yeah. So
that there was no way of getting it back to them. But then there's this whole back plot of the movie of David's taking this film stuff to a recovery person?
Yeah.
For corrupted film. And so it's throughout the whole back half when they're kind of looking into maybe Jim is innocent, adding in little segments of just recovered footage. I think that's always really nice.
No, it's so cool.
One of the notable ones is we hear Locust and Ryan mention the time. When they're walking in the woods and it's past the point in time where they...
Well, it's during the point in time where they should be getting murdered.
Yeah. So they're
if Jim were the one to do it.
Probably not Jim.
Yeah. No, I love... So this is something I want to talk about. This film is an hour and 26 minutes long. It took 10 years off my life.
Oh, it feels so long.
It is so... long and drawn out and like dramatic, but in such a cool way.
Well, I mean, it feels long and dry like an actual documentary.
But it's good. You know what I mean? Like, I'm still interested. I still find it entertaining. Like, when when he received the box with the tape in it, I went, this is not happening. This cannot go on for more. I can't believe this is happening.
You kind of turned to me and you were like, wait, it's not over?
Yeah, because there are so many points in this film where it feels like it's about to wrap up and you're going to like get a sort of
natural conclusion
of like anything that's like a murder mystery thing like this that's unsolved. It's like, oh, we don't know what happened. That's what I felt like was going to happen.
Yeah.
And it never did. And it would just add new evidence or give you more interesting stuff to ponder.
I will say that is kind of the classic like issue with some documentarians where they're like, all right, I got this cool concept. I've made this cool movie. How do I end it? When do I end it?
But it's just really well done in this film, like because it's always right when you feel it's about to be over that they introduce some new thing that adds a twist or a turn in the story, which is why I like it so much.
Fair enough. I think on that note, though, I kind of want to get into a little brief spoiler section.
Okay.
So we'll be right back.
Hello, everybody. This is Future Bob coming at you to let you know that if you do not want any major spoilers about the end of this film, to please skip to 56 minutes and 46 seconds. Once again, that's 56 minutes and 46 seconds for no major spoilers.
All right. So I wanted to put this in here because I very explicitly want to talk about the end, 5 minutes.
Okay.
Which, before we do that, you said you only liked the first, hour and 20 minutes?
Hour and 10-ish. Yeah.
So the 5 minutes not what you liked?
I hate the end of this film.
Okay.
No, I actually just, I think it ruins the movie for me.
Okay, we'll talk about that in a second then.
I hate it.
But I think the ending of this film does sound fairly interesting, admittedly.
It's interesting.
It is interesting. But we learn that there is a brief section of, that recovered footage that gets sent to David that is, super corrupted. But the recovery expert finds 10 seconds where they're like, I think Locust caught something on his camera, but I'm going to have to go through it. And, this is back in 1998. And again, getting into cool technology stuff, we kind of hear the logistics of how she has to do her job and recover film, which is part
using magnets,
computerized, but part her autocorrecting. But she very specifically focuses on this one frame, and it even tells it takes us
it's a
2 months
and
16 days.
It's 1,700 hours or something.
But she's able to kind of find the killer's face. Now at this point, the documentary's basically been wrapped up. We even get essentially what is supposed to be the last scene of the documentary shown. But as kind of a tack on to the end of the documentary, we get the title card, and it's she's agreed to have this whole thing recorded, and then they'll present the evidence to the police, kind of as a closing remark after the documentary's been formally closed. But the reveal is when they look at the scene is that the person on this one frame is David.
I don't hate this. I think that's an awesome
the documentarian,
twist.
Which I think is an awesome twist.
Incredible.
Because it's even hinted at earlier. I mean, I think the best one is they start talking for a brief moment about who suggested that they go into the Pine Barrens from the RSC chat, and they're like, we don't remember the name of the person, but it was D something. And I don't know if you were paying attention, but during that sequence, we see multiple shots of David on IRC with his name David typing out the own lines. There's also some other things that are very ego stroking throughout the documentary. When David's like, what type of genius would have had to pull this off?
But that also comes back to his whole thing of it's about perspective. And I killed these people and I made this documentary about it.
Yeah.
And that's kind of awesome.
And I mean, I think the whole implication here is that David is very much, I mean, obviously he's a serial killer, but he's after
the fame.
The fame?
Because he brings it up. He's there are tons of people getting work or making money off of their deaths. People are profiting from this thing. So I'm making this documentary to even sensationalize it even more and make money.
And David's like, I want mine.
Yeah,
I
exactly.
did this. Give me. But yeah, well, I think all of that is really, really cool. The issue is that we get this brief sequence of like David like going into the room right as it's revealed that like, oh, the image on the footage is his face.
Mm-hmm.
And then it switches from the, the documentary found footage style to an actual movie style.
Yeah. Because the whole thing is in 4:3.
Yeah.
Up to this point.
And we watch David murder the like video recovery expert.
Yep.
Pack up her body and then take her out into the Pine Barrens, assumedly to like dispose of the body. Why didn't you like that?
It's just not the type of ending I wanted from a film like this. Like, I think it would be much stronger if it had just maybe had the David's face reveal and then just fucking cut or something. I don't know. The end of this movie does not vibe with me in the way I want the end of a film like this to vibe with me, because it's like, I don't know. I would have preferred if it was left a mystery. You know what I mean? That feels so much more satisfying in my mind. To have it revealed that it is just this guy who we've been listening talk the entire time is sort of, I don't know, I guess the ending's really jarring and it just doesn't vibe with me in the right way.
Fair enough. I mean, I think, like we said, that twist is really good.
The twist is incredible. I just wish there hadn't been all of that stuff after the twist.
And I think you're right. I think having it switch to like actual traditional movie shots is a little jarring. But I think it has to be done with that twist and the style this film is going for.
Well, yeah, because if it doesn't, then it doesn't make any sense.
Because the implication here is that David obviously, he didn't send this footage to himself. He just, like, had all this footage
and
sitting
fucked
in his
it up
locker.
himself so that he wouldn't get seen.
And he fucked it up himself. And he didn't expect her to actually be able to recover the image of himself. And so, like I said, we get the last shot of the documentary before we go into the, like, whole, oh, she recovered this.
Yeah.
And so I think the implication is after we got that last shot of the documentary, the rest of this is like scrapped footage because David wasn't expecting to get caught here.
Yeah.
That's why when it switches to like standard cinematography stuff, it's doing so because it's trying to show us that, hey, this isn't actually in the documentary.
No, I understand that.
It also shows like what I do think is really good about this shot is it shows like how like uncomfortable he is in that moment because things aren't going the way he wants.
Yeah.
Like he's very clearly stuttering. With that being said, well, I don't necessarily like that shift into traditional movie stuff. I do think the ending is pretty decent because it shows the last shot of the documentary now shot from a different perspective, which is basically shooting David filming it himself. And it's really cool on second watch because you can tell very specifically David is shooting the angles weird because right at his feet is the dead body of the video recovery expert.
Yep.
And I don't know. I thought seeing that and what was essentially the last like couple hours of the documentary being made from a different perspective alongside that twist was effective. I would have loved if they could do it in a different style.
Yeah.
Because I didn't like the style break. But I feel like that stylistic change was the only way to make that work.
Yeah, I don't know.
It's just a weird thing, because, like, I mean, we just watched Cannibal Holocaust this season.
Yeah.
So we know that you can have different styles in a film. It's just...
And in fact, this film does different styles already really well between the found footage that you get and the actual documentary part. That stuff's all really good.
I just wish I think there was a better transition between the two.
Because it's so jarring. Yeah. Because it's like he's recording himself and then it cuts to a wide frame and he's beating the shit out of the video recovery expert.
Yeah, honestly, I think the way I would have liked it to have been done is maybe that we got the last shots of the documentary and then we saw the documentary's credits. And then as a post like credit scene, I did quotations, none of you guys could see that. But as a post credit scene, we then switch to, like, the standard, like, cinematography style.
Yeah.
And it's, like, him getting a phone call from her, and then we see all that stuff play out as, like, a traditional movie. And then we get the actual credits.
I don't know. I just also don't like getting revealed that I like the reveal. I just wish it was handled in a different way. Like, I think that reveal is so strong and cool because it makes all of the stuff that he's saying throughout the documentary make so much more sense. And, like, makes the thing he said about perspective feel so much more intertwined with everything else. but showing him murder someone afterwards, it just doesn't it doesn't sit right with me.
I know, but you have to have something because, he's making this documentary and he wouldn't put that reveal in the documentary.
Yeah. Well, that's what I'm saying. Like, I just wish they had revealed it in a different way. I don't know. There's
Because
just
they
something.
can't reveal that within the standard documentary format because it doesn't make sense for how it's set up.
Yeah.
With that being said, that's all I have to put here.
Or maybe, sorry, let me.
Oh, yeah, go ahead.
Maybe if, like, because that whole thing at the end just felt so drawn out and unnecessary to me when the film already feels like it's 10 years long. I just wanted, maybe if, like, it had been shot from, like, a different, maybe, like, okay, hear me out. So he was recording when he walked into the room to talk to her. Maybe he walks in, he sees her, like, finish the image, realizes that she realizes it's him, and then he kills her.
Yeah, no, I mean, I think at the end of the day...
But maybe, I don't know, it's just so tough.
I like the ideas following that reveal because they make sense, but the
Yeah.
execution is not.
It just
great.
doesn't do anything for me because I am such a fan of, like, true crime stuff to where I wanted this movie to end and then just to go, who did it? Like, it feels bad
Wink.
to get an ending, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, to get, like, this, like, I don't know. If I could come off of the shock factor of realizing he's the killer and then the movie ends, oh, love that. That would be so nice. You know what I mean?
Yeah, again, I think I like the ideas in that ending, just the execution. Not great.
Because, like, I want the movie to end on a high because that's just fun. To feel like it's over and then you get nothing else is, like, that's one of my favorite things in my movies. That's why I like The Hills Have Eyes so much. The original, because it's like, oh, it's over. Sick.
It just ends out on nowhere.
It's cool, man.
That being said, you good to go back?
Yeah, I guess.
All right. Okay, we're back.
Are we?
Or you're still here. Either way. I guess with all that being said, are you good to do, like, recommendations and stuff?
Okay. Maybe we should have covered this in the spoiler section. Maybe a little bit, but I didn't think about it. But I'm going to talk about it now. Okay? We're not going to go on. We're not going to end the episode just yet. I have one thing. This is, of course, a Jersey Devil film. Like, that's kind of the whole plot point and the premise.
Vaguely.
Of
It's
them going
vaguely
into
a
the Pine
Jersey
Barrens.
Devil film.
Say this right now. Not a monster movie. There is no monster to be had. The Jersey Devil is used as sort of a
Framing device?
framing device of, like, maybe the Jersey Devil could have killed them. That's the only thing I'm saying because, like, I realized when we just got out of the spoiler section, we didn't really talk about it. It's cool, and I like it a lot. I think it's really fun. This movie would be really wild if it was a monster movie. It'd be a very different film.
It would not match the tone at all.
No, but it'd be cool.
It might be stupid, though.
It might be stupid.
There would be an execution thing.
I just thought I'd bring that up because, like, that's something that we opened the podcast with, of me being like, it's a Jersey Devil movie. It is kinda, but not really. But it's still cool.
Do you want to give your recommendation now?
Sure.
Okay.
If you're a fan of the movies you watched in season 2, I know I gave this last episode, but I'm giving it again because this is a very similar thing. I think this is more Lake Mungo-esque rather than the Poughkeepsie Tapes because the Poughkeepsie Tapes has, like, it has interviews and stuff, but this feels more like Lake Mungo in my mind.
In a lot of ways, I mean, it obviously feels like everything from that season.
I mean, sure, it's the
And
same kind of concept.
Like Mungo definitely executed it the best. The reason I keep comparing this film to the Poughkeepsie Tapes, which I don't even know if we watched that season.
Yeah, we did.
That was a guest episode.
No, Ashley was just there. No, sorry, Abby was there, though.
Oh, was she? Oh, I guess she watched it on the season.
Yeah.
Okay. But the reason I do keep comparing it to the Poughkeepsie Tapes is because the Poughkeepsie Tapes is doing very specifically a documentary style from the early 2000s.
Mm-hmm.
And this is doing a documentary style from, like, the late 90s. And to me, those seem very similar.
That's fair.
Which is different than Lake Mungo, which is doing a documentary style from, like, I'd say
2010s or something?
the late 2010s. Not late 2010s. Early teens.
Yeah.
Late noughties. So, stylistically, this feels a lot more similar to, like, the Poughkeepsie Tapes.
Mm-hmm.
Also, it has a lot of talking head interviews from, like,
Police,
and this film does as well.
Yeah. I guess the only thing is, like, with the Poughkeepsie Tapes, you get to see some of the, like, crazy shit, and in this you don't. That's my only thing. In Lake Mungo, you don't get to see any of the crazy shit, you know?
Yeah, that's fair.
Oh, if you are interested in, like, true crime stuff, this is a very true crime documentary. I think it's very much in that vein. So that's another thing. And if you're interested in a movie set in the Pine Barrens, I think this movie is while the whole thing is not set in the Pine Barrens, the stuff you do get in the Pine Barrens that is found footage is very cool and very atmospheric and like really nice. I like that stuff a lot. And it uses it as a very good device for the mystery and whatnot.
No, yeah, I think the Pine Barrens are a nice little forest to shoot stuff in.
Yeah.
Because, it's a lot of pine trees, and especially if you can get it, during the winter, which this film did, it looks kind of creepy because there's not lots of branches, but not a lot of leaves.
Mm-hmm. No, it's super dope. If you're also a fan of like the internet in the late 90s, there's some cool internet late 90s stuff in here that I did not expect that I thought was really sick. So, yeah, I think those are my recommendations.
Okay, for me, I think I only got 3. First of all, if you're into like mockumentary stuff, especially for horror, I think this is fairly well done, especially for, again, the budget they had, which was absolutely minuscule. If you are looking for like kind of an interesting film from the 90s, I mean, like I said, this is kind of like the first film to do stuff with consumer grade products.
Yeah.
Not to mention a found footage film before like the Blair Witch.
Mm-hmm.
Even if it was in production around the same time, if a little bit later. It's just really interesting from that perspective.
Yeah, it's also very different from the other horror movies coming out in the late 90s. Like, what else is coming out? Scream, I Know What You Did Last Summer.
Yeah, it just feels interesting. It deals with technology and stuff in an interesting way. I think that's a lot of really cool stuff there. But I think the big one, if you're just into kind of true crime stuff, this is a nice little investigative piece. I think if you like that stuff, this might be pretty entertaining. That being said, you want to rate it?
Okay. You all, if you didn't stick around for the spoiler section, you heard me at the start of this go, I like some of it, I don't like other parts of it. I'm going to tell you right now, I don't like the end of this movie.
He likes 98% of this film.
95%, I would say. 95, And that's kind of my problem, is I think the ending blows, except for the ending is really cool if they executed it differently. So I don't know how much that ruins my score with the
Cool
film.
idea, bad execution for the ending.
Incredible idea. I just wish it had been executed a little differently. But I do really like this movie, and it scratches my brain in a lot of the right ways that a true crime like documentary sort of thing should and does. So I'm still going to give it a pretty high score, except I just hate the end. 4. I want to give it a 4.5. If the ending had been as I would have liked it, I would give it a 4.5. But I'm not going to. I'm going to give it a 4. I still really like the film.
Yeah, I think I'm going to give it a 4 as well. I think I have similar problems as Bob with the ending of this film. I think I'm a little bit more forgiving of it because I think they tried a really cool idea and it just didn't work out.
True.
And I think I got to give them props there because like they took the gamble, and in some ways I do think it was worth that really cool idea. It just kind of sucks that it didn't work. But more importantly than that, I think this whole film is very impressive.
No, it's super cool.
Like I said, if you don't know about the small budget, it still looks pretty decent. But once you know that, it's like a whole different ballpark of like, wow, this is really cool.
Mm-hmm.
But really, the reason I'm gonna give it a 4 is just for the fact that, I mean, at the end of the day, I think it executes that style of like, we're making something that's supposed to look like a documentary really, really, really well. This looks like something you'd see on like a cable access channel in the late 90s. It looks really convincing. It sounds really convincing. I think everything's fairly realistic and well thought out. I don't know. I thought it executed the concept more than I would expect.
No, for sure.
I will say I was slightly between a 4 and a 3.5, but only because, well, I do enjoy this film. I'm objective enough to know that, like, you could watch this and think it's the most boring thing ever.
True.
Like, I can totally understand why this has, like,
low scores. Because I think for a general audience, this is probably a slow, boring movie. Because,
yeah,
I'm going to be honest.
Because it is a slow, boring movie.
Nothing happens because it's a documentary.
Yeah. I mean, it feels exactly like a documentary.
But I like those, so
yeah,
it's fine.
Like, if you like documentaries, if you like true crime stuff, or if you're just in it for kind of the cool historical context, I think this film's really going to work for you.
Yeah.
But I wouldn't necessarily recommend it to the general audience because it's either going to work or it's not.
And if it doesn't, you're going to be bored out of your dome.
It's going to suck. With that being said, though, I think we're going to go to the spoiler section now.
Huh? Talking about
Not
the outtakes?
the
you
outtakes,
fucking...
yes. The other spoiler section.
Yeah.
With that being said, we'll be back in a second.
Yeah, we're back in a sec. Hello, everybody. Welcome to the outtake section for this episode of Beware the Board. I hope you're enjoying our review of the last broadcast so far. I like this film. I think it's super, super cool. But without further ado, let's get into the outtakes. This first clip is our reaction to the opening text at the beginning of this film. That's such a cool thing to include. That's so much cooler than this is real. You know what I mean?
No, just the following people are
Well,
not
real,
actors.
yeah, are not actors.
Because
That's
it's
so
kind of
cool.
technically true. Most of them are not actors.
This next clip is me realizing that Ben was right. We are the hosts from Fact or Fiction. This is us if we were in the 90s, bro. You were right.
I know. I know what I was. You're Steven.
That's fine. Ah, come on! Why am I going to be the bad vibes guy?
You got facial hair.
Oh my god.
You're shorter than me.
That's not true. I'm taller than you, and you just won't admit it. This next clip is our reaction to them describing IRC for the very first time. These motherfuckers invented Twitch chat?
Yeah.
What the fuck? That's so cool.
It's a pretty,
Advanced shit.
progressive, I guess would be the word.
Hi, everybody. Welcome back. I hope you enjoyed the outtakes. Do we have any announcements, Ben?
I don't think so.
I also don't think so, but last time we said that, we probably should have announced something.
Screw it.
Okay.
As always, check us out wherever you get your podcasts, Spotify, Apple Podcasts. If you're looking us up there, please give us a quick rating. That really helps us reach other people.
Yeah, for sure.
Or just leave a review. Hopefully a nice one.
Yeah, I think on all of our episodes to go up on Spotify, at least, there's a little box you can type in what you thought of the episode. So if you have thoughts, let us know. We always like your feedback. It helps make the show better.
And again, that helps us with getting recommended to other people.
Yeah.
You can also just recommend us to your friends.
Yeah.
That's kind of cool, I guess. Otherwise, we're also on YouTube, which, while not great for audio-only content, is kind of nice for us at least, because it's really easy for us to view viewer engagement, especially with likes, subscriptions, views on videos, stuff like that. Aside from that, though, YouTube has a couple cool tools. There is a search function which lets you search all our videos for key terms. So if you want to know if we've covered a specific movie, you can search it up that way, then find the episode number. There's also a bell button which lets you get notified whenever we post a new video. So in case we have a surprise episode out of nowhere, that's how you know. But the big thing with YouTube is it's one of the two major places to communicate with us at. You can go into the comment section of a specific video or go over to Twitter at Beware the Board and go talk to Bob. Maybe give him some suggestions for things that you think would make the show more interesting. Maybe a trip we could take.
Oh, no.
Maybe
Ben...
to investigate the Jersey Devil or
I will never.
Loveland Frogman or
Oh, that would be cool.
maybe those little green people from Kentucky.
Oh, those things have we talked about us watching that video in the hotel room while we were at the convention? You put on fucking what was that?
Oh, I think we were watching is that Ancient Aliens?
Ancient Aliens or some shit, and you were just fucking ranting over there like a fucking madman. Anyway, I don't want to talk about that.
About how stupid Ancient Aliens is? Yeah.
First of all, putting this out there, I'm never going to a haunted location with Ben. I'm not doing
Why
that.
not?
You would leave me to die.
I wouldn't leave you to die.
Second
I
of
would
all,
maybe leave you to get very scared.
I'm too scared. I'm not doing it. Unless someone gave me an exorbitant amount of money.
How about $2?
That is a lot of money when I'm very poor. Maybe. Don't do that. You all couldn't see what he just did on. Stop doing a visual gag on the audio podcast. Like Ben said, check us out on Twitter at Beware the Board. It's where we post updates about the show, information about the show. Basically, if there's anything you don't know about the show, it goes on our Twitter On Mondays, I post a spoiler post for that week's episode, which is a hidden movie cover that you can reveal, so you can watch the episode before. So you can watch the episode, so you can watch the movie before we do. So when you listen to the episodes, you don't get any spoilers, and we're being vague about stuff. You know what we're talking about. Then on Fridays, or whatever day the episode goes live, I always post a link to the episode. So if you ever miss an upload or want to know something went up, there's always a link there. Last thing, check us out on TikTok, at Beware the Board, and on YouTube Shorts. We do short form content for the show. I've been really appreciating all the support on that stuff lately. It's actually been going fairly well, and I've been pretty regular. If you noticed recently, the one didn't go up last week or whatever. The movie I found a clip for is I can't find clips of the movie for the short form. For anyone who doesn't know, it's Piranha. That episode is very funny, and I found some funny clips. I couldn't make anything out of them. So I missed a week. I'm sorry.
He's going to work on it, though.
Yeah, I'm going to try and figure something
out. The way we've been going about getting footage for Bob's short form has not been the most
conducive to anything.
Yeah. So we might fix that soon.
We're going to try to fix that, is what I'm getting at. But yeah, if you like the show and want to support us over there, at Beware the Board on TikTok and on YouTube Shorts. Ben, I think that's it.
All right. Well, we'll see you guys next time.
Yeah, we'll see you guys next time.